In at number 5 we have Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a former seraph turned high-ranking demon. He is considered one of the 7 princes of hell and oversees the Order of the Fly. He, alongside Satan and Lucifer, form the triumvirate of hell and is one of the supreme monarchs of the Inferno. Beelzebub was an angel who was once under the archangel Gabriel. Beelzebub fell and joined with Lucifer to become a high-ranking demon in hell. In Catholic demonology, he is sometimes considered to be one of the first 3 angels to fall from heaven, along with Lucifer and Leviathan. Beelzebub is the chief lieutenant of Lucifer and is one of the most loyal to the morning star. Beelzebub is seen as being associated with pride or gluttony depending on the scholar, and is also the prince of false gods. Flies play a large focus in imagery detailing him, and the malignant spirit can even take the form of flies according to some. Down through history, Beelzebub has been held responsible for many cases of demonic possession. He was also shown to be sowing his influence in Salem, Massachusetts. His name came up repeatedly during the Salem witch trials, the last large-scale public expression of witch hysteria in either North America or Europe. In at number 4 we have Iblis. Iblis, formerly known as Azazel, is a fallen angel turned high-ranking demon and king of hell. Iblis rules over the demons known as the Jinn, where his court is held within the city of Jinnistan. His exact rank in the demonic hierarchy is not known, but he reports directly to both Lucifer and Satan. The Lord of the Jinn is arguably one of the most loyal demons serving under the morning star. After his fall from the heavens, Iblis's body is composed entirely of molten magma, or brimstone, that varies between forms. His original form was a giant swirling ball of flames. After being released, Iblis's form grew tremendously and sprouted 4 arms with an armored head of molten rock. Iblis was an angelic jinn created by God out of Ril. He stood out amongst the jinn as being unique in appearance and power, but he was no different in the eyes of heaven. When the angels took prisoners, Iblis was one of them and carried them to heaven. Since he, unlike the other jinn, was pious, the angels was impressed by his nobility, and Iblis was allowed to join the company of angels and elevated to their rank. Although he got the outer appearance of an angel, he was still a jinn in essence, thus he was able to choose in terms of free will. After being elevated to the ranks of the angels, Iblis became a leader and teacher of his own choir of angels and a keeper of heaven. God gave him authority over the lower heavens and the earth. Iblis is also considered the leader of those angels who battled the jinn. Therefore, Iblis and his army drove those ancient jinn to the edge of the world. The jinn in response regarded Iblis as a traitor to their own kind and accused him of slithering his way into the ranks of heaven, mainly to avoid persecution at the hands of the angels. When God created Adam, he ordered all the angels and jinn to bow before the new creation. All the angels and jinn bowed down, but Iblis refused to do so. As punishment for his naughtiness, God banished Iblis from heaven and condemned him to hell. In at number 3 we have Gadriel. Gadriel, also known as Gadriel, the Wall of God and the Silent Sentinel, is listed as one of the chief cadres of the Gregory of Fallen Angels. He was originally the first angel to guard Eden from any unwelcome guest before Uriel. Gadriel was the angel that originally guarded the Garden of Eden from hostile forces, until Lucifer managed to trick Gadriel into letting Samael and Lilith in. This ruptured the garden's stability, triggering a series of events that caused the fall of man. As punishment for his failure, Gadriel was kicked out from the Garden of Eden. Due to his failure for preventing the adversary from entering the Garden of Eden being tricked by the morning star, Gadriel was shamed and scolded by God and the other angels. In an attempt to rectify his mistakes, Gadriel pleaded with God to bestow upon him a new position as recompense for his previously failed duty. God accepted and moved Gadriel to the Watchers, tasked with observing and guarding mankind alongside 200 other Watcher angels. Unfortunately, Gadriel failed that as well, as he was among the Watchers that joined the others in descending unto earth to teach men forbidden knowledge and fornicate with their daughters. Gadriel had no choice in the matter either, as the Watchers all took on an oath that bound them together, meaning that if one of them commits a sin, they will all be a part of it. Being one of the corrupt Watchers, Gadriel is said to have been responsible for teaching man warfare. In at number 2 we have Belial. Belial, known as Hell's brightest fire, Evil's match and the King of Evil, and one of the 4 crown princes of Hell ruling over the north. Belial is a mighty and powerful king, as he was created right next after Lucifer and is of his order. He appears in the form of a beautiful angel sitting in a chariot of fire and speaks with a comely voice. After the fall of the angels, he was against God and heaven, though likely this was due to his sloth. He would eventually decide to continue to be a part of Stygian council and become a king of hell. He bestows excellent familiars and governs 80 legions of spirits. Whoever summons him must have offerings of gifts or sacrifices, or he will not give true answers to their demands, but even then will not spend more than 1 hour on the truth unless constrained by divine power or his seal, to be worn as a lament by the person who summons him. In the martyrdom of Isaiah, Belial is a demon of lawlessness and the ruler of this world. Belial is also the patron of secrets, domination, and seduction. He is a profane being, reveling in the pleasures and pains of the flesh. Belial was one of the many great angels that joined Lucifer's crusade against the Most High and the tyranny of heaven. Being of Lucifer's order, Belial was a very powerful and respected angel, and as a result was a formidable force during the war in heaven. He was soon defeated and cast out alongside Lucifer and other fallen angels into the abyss, which then became hell. And finally, in at number 1 we have Lilith. Lilith was supposed to be the first wife of Adam. She left the Garden of Eden and became the mother of demons and the supreme empress of hell. She was created by God to be wife of Adam and the mother of humanity. However, she was led astray and was banished. She was originally a storm demon known as Lilitu in ancient Mesopotamian myth around 3000 BC, and she was thought to have been the cause of disease, illness, and death. Lilith is an impeccably beautiful woman, described as the walking definition of feminine beauty alongside Eve herself. In contrast to Eve, who has ginger hair, Lilith originally had platinum blonde hair, fair skin, bright blue eyes. She was also shown to be rather taller than Eve, standing roughly around 6 feet and 3 inches in height. After being driven out of the Garden of Eden, Lilith's hair darkened considerably, having a blackish red coloration with her skin having a light brown pigmentation. Her eyes, which were once sky blue, became a dark yellow. Her hair is also described as being the nighttime sky carefully woven on her head, which is a nod to her shape-shifting into an owl, a nocturnal animal, and her eventually becoming a demon of the night. After becoming the Empress of Hell, Lilith was clothed in only the finest noble attire, which possessed a consistent gothic theme to it, yet demonic in nature. The clothing in question would be at times thin and revealing fabric, usually black or dark royal purple. She grew large curved horns somewhat resembling branched antlers, which had several golden rings clamped around them, and was adorned with jewelry that was rare on Earth and only found in the underworld. Her sclera red with yellow irises and black pupils. Lilith's early fall from grace even prompted her to join the side of the rebel angels during the impending war in heaven, and it was from there she met Satan, who, despite having contrasting ideologies, possessed a similar frustration and sense of betrayal. In Lilith's case, the angels that would cater to her and Adam would instead drive her out of the garden for her rebellious nature, and more so when she realized that God would only listen to Adam instead of her, thereby thinking that God shares the views of Lilith being second fiddle. After her banishment from heaven and eloping with Satan, Lilith became quite deceptive, cunning, and calculating, to where she even managed to manipulate her sister Eve into finding answers from the Tree of Knowledge to initiate the fall of man. Her treatment and abandonment in heaven made her grow spiteful and vengeful towards the divine, which resulted in her creating the first monsters on Earth that would terrorize the children of Adam and Eve for centuries to come, and her demonic children would drive mankind down into a spiral of chaos, corruption, and sin, turning them away from the light of God. She is also highly opportunistic, ever watchful of the next opportunity to gain power through someone else. Coming in at number 5, Mammon. Mammon, also known as Mammon or Plutus, is a powerful fallen angel. Mammon, now a demon, is commonly personified as greed itself. He is the noble demon lord of abundance, prosperity, wealth, and injustice. He also is most often personified as a deity. In his appearance, Mammon is somewhat similar to the gods Plutus and Dispater, especially when Plutus appears in the Divine Comedy as a wolf-like demon of wealth, wolves being associated with greed in the Middle Ages. Thomas Aquinas metaphorically described the sin of greed as Mammon being carried up from hell by a wolf, coming to inflame the human heart with greed. During his time in heaven, he was depicted as forever looking downward at heaven's golden pavement rather than God himself. In fact, Mammon's obsession with gold was to the point where he did not even care about Lucifer's rebellion, but due to the fact that he cared more about material wealth than God, he was cast out by the archangel Gabriel. After the rebellion in heaven, Mammon was banished to hell, where he is the one who finds underground precious metal that his demonic companions used to build their capital city, Pandemonium. He did this by Lucifer's order. Mammon cancels the devils to be happy with what they have got and to create a home for themselves in hell. At some point in time, with the aid of Mulciber, Mammon created the legendary Twin Blade, which was made from the bones of a fallen angel, salt that was crystallized from the tears of Michael, then melted down with the ichor of a god into Damascus steel. The Twin Blade is capable of of killing almost anything. In at number 4 we have Asmodeus. Asmodeus is a king of demons and earthly spirits, mostly known from the Book of Tobit. The demon is also mentioned in some Talmudic legends, for instance in the story of the construction of the Temple of Solomon. He was thought to be the king of the 9 hells by some Renaissance Christians. He also represents one of the 7 deadly sins, lust. Being the demon of lust, he is responsible for twisting people's sexual desires. It is said that people who fall to Asmodeus' ways will be sentenced to an eternity in the 2nd level of hell. He is also a demon of lechery, jealousy, anger, and revenge. Asmodeus is either a ruthless, brutal monster or mischievous demon endowed with a playful and satirical genius. Asmodeus was originally an angel known as Asmodal and was in the order of cherubim. Right before the war in heaven, he joined Lucifer's rebellion against the Lord, only to be personally defeated by the archangel Raphael. But not before Raphael brutally tore out the lion part of his body and cast him out of heaven with the rebel angels in tow. Asmodeus barely survived the fall due to the injuries inflicted on him by Raphael, but he managed to recover. The lion that was originally part of him, now torn, became something of a pet and steed. He also became one of the 7 kings of hell, embodying the sin of lust. He has hundreds of legions of demons under his command. He incites gambling and is the overseer of all the gambling houses in the court of hell. Asmodeus also became the husband of Lilith, though she does not exactly find his presence to be welcoming or tolerable at all. In at number 3 we have Belphegor. Belphegor is a fallen angel, now a demon lord that presides over the sin of sloth and is one of the 7 princes of hell that rules hell. Belphegor gives people ideas for inventions that will make them rich, which leads them to be greedy and selfish. Belphegor is a lieutenant from hell who had been dispatched to earth on a mission by Satan. As one of the fallen angels, Belphegor was originally a member of the Order of Principalities, and after his fall he became a demonic counterpart to one of the 10 Sephiroth that oversees the Tree of Life. During his time in heaven, Belphegor was a friend of Asmodal and Mammon, but he did not exactly enjoy his angelic duties, foreshadowing his slothful tendencies. Moreover, Belphegor enjoyed crafting strange and intricate objects from all manner of material he could find, which according to him was his outside hobby. Unlike the majority of rebel angels, Belphegor did not join Lucifer's side after he declared the war against heaven, nor was he at God's side either. Despite not being part of Lucifer's rebellion, the fact that he did not join God's side earned him his father's punishment of being cast down to hell alongside other rebel angels. No longer an angel of God but an archdemon of sloth. Belphegor, along with Asmodeus and Mammon, was soon awakened by the sound of Lucifer's voice calling out to him from newly created hell as a result of his impact from the fall. Belphegor took part in the construction of Pandemonium, given his talent and interest in machinery. He participated by crafting the inner workings of the capital, whilst Mulciber and Mammon worked on both the exterior and interior. He was then present at the Pandemonium during Lucifer's rally. Belphegor had then become one of the 7 kings of hell. Belphegor is invoked by mortals who wish to find fame and wealth through invention, often with as little effort as possible. These wishes, as with almost any demonic invocation, are doomed to fail because Belphegor's true mission is to draw the lazy into the sin of sloth. Through the failure of whatever Belphegor provided to the invoker, he draws them into procrastination and idle dreaming rather than producing, thus damning them. So maybe you're not lazy, you're just damned by Belphegor. Coming in at number 2 we have Moloch. Moloch was once an angel serving God. Due to his own self-interest, he was cast out. He gained a cult following and many worshipped and followed him in ancient times. Child sacrifice is non-existent today, hopefully, but that hasn't always been the case. In ancient times it was commonly associated with people hoping for greater fertility for either person or a land. One cult stands out from the rest, the cult of Moloch, the Canaanite god of child sacrifice. In the bowels of a big bronze statue with the body of a man and the head of a bull, offerings, at least according to the Hebrew Bible, were to be reaped through either fire or war. It is said that devotees can still be found today. People prayed and offered to Moloch as they believed he was responsible for the weather and fertile agriculture. If they wanted their land and people to thrive, they believed that they must make this sacrifice for the gods, or specifically Moloch, to bless them. Though the biblical account describes children being passed through the fire to Moloch, Hebrew prophets are universal in their condemnation of the practice. This has suggested that such sacrifices might have been made to their Abrahamic god by some cult, but were condemned and cast out of the Orthodox faith as anathema. Followers argue that this was not a practice of God but those who were led astray. Others claim that Moloch was an angel before he fell, and those who followed him mistook his word for religion. There are religious sacrifices sites still standing around the world today, preserved in time as a reminder of the dark history of following false gods. Although it was more commonplace in ancient culture, there are modern cases of Moloch worship. Obviously these are kept more personal, as this would not be accepted. There have been claims that some influential people in today's society secretly make sacrifices to Moloch to gain power and influence over today's world. Of course, we do not have evidence of this, just claims. Do you believe that people are committing such horrible acts for their own self-interest? And finally, in at number 1 we have Lucifer. Lucifer. Lucifer, also known as Satan, the devil, Lightbringer, the Lightbearer, and the Morning Star, was one of the earliest of God's creations. Also the twin brother of Michael. He was regarded as the wisest, greatest, and most beautiful angel in all of creation, having virtually no equal, with only God being his superior. He is infamously known as the angel that rebelled against God and heaven and caused the downfall of mankind. Lucifer was said to be the brightest in all of creation and was the most revered too, and most praised among the angels for his beauty and power. This in the process caused Lucifer to be prideful of himself. So immense was his grace and power that his throne was positioned atop a mountain anointed by God himself, adorned with burning stones known only as the stones of fire, infused with the fires of the sun to give light to the dead and the lost as Lucifer guided them to paradise. It was not until God created humans that Lucifer's pride began to overtake him and grew more rebellious against his father. It soon led to Lucifer becoming dissatisfied with following God, alongside the fact that his father favored the new creations known as humans, spending less time with his own family and more on developing those humans. To add insult to injury, Lucifer would be told by God to watch over and guide these humans, which only made Lucifer look down on these mortals with contempt, especially when having a perfect being like him watching over these creatures like a shepherd over his flock. However, he saw that the humans would be no different than everything else that would be under God's puppet strings, and realized that he could perhaps impart his ideas of existentialism on these new creations. He approached one of the two, named Lilith, who was strolling through the primeval plains of the Garden of Eden, and the two had a rather amicable conversation. During the conversation, Lucifer managed to persuade Lilith into siding with him as well. He convinced her that since Lilith had been created from clay, the same as Adam, she is equal to him, and therefore should not be under him. She would be no puppet bound to any string, and would instead live out her life the way she desires to live it, rather than having been told how and why. Lilith was enlightened by the Morning Star's words, and this caused her not to be submissive to Adam and leave him. Being the second-born creation of God, Lucifer is a being of incalculable celestial power. He is among the most powerful entities in all of creation. The only two beings that somewhat rival him in the depths of hell are Satan and Beelzebub. After being released onto Earth, Lucifer's mere presence upon breaking through was said to have shook the globe and created several unnatural disasters around certain parts of the world. Moreover, his presence also caused supernatural beings and psychics immense agony and trembled from sheer dread. I don't think you need to tell me that Lucifer should definitely be feared and deserves the top place on this list.
Coming in number 5, we've got Abegor. Oh shoot, this one has gore right in the name. It might not be spelled perfectly, but you get the gist. However, you could also refer to it as Eligor or Eligos and still get the same results. Classic. A lot of demons are known for manipulating people and causing them to act out of character. Whether that new impulse leads the possessed to prideful behavior, jealousy, greed, or something even more heinous, you know that it makes the world a darker place overall. Abegor has a wicked trick up his sleeve to cause a lot of problems all at once. On top of commanding 60 legions of demons as the Grand Duke of Hades, he is also an expert manipulator of mortals, and often drives them to commit great acts of violence and even genocide. So instead of corrupting a single person and having that reverberate through their brethren, he corrupts a person and has them decide it's a good day to wake up and commit mass murder and war crimes. Holy smokes. A lot of this has to do with Abegor's many talents, which include seeing the future and predicting upcoming events, as well as providing military aid in the form of strategy and advice. This demon lives for violence, for blood sport, for the thrill of it all. So even if you conjure up Abegor for a shot at winning a skirmish, he'll probably advise that you go way overboard, maim the corpses, take trophies, and burn it all to ash. Then he'll tell you to do it all again, but this time on a larger scale with less soldiers, more civilians. Gnarly. Tales have been told of princes and generals selling their souls to Abegor in order to gain expert military insight. They win their upcoming battles, but the outcomes were some of history's bloodiest. Plus, at the end of it all, when said prince or general finally falls, whether in battle or to disease, they're now eternally indebted to Abegor. Welcome back to bloody, horrid combat, soldier. Here's your pitchfork, here's your bat wings. Hope you enjoy the barracks, which are conveniently located next to the Lake of Fire and will always be hundreds of degrees hotter than you can handle. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you what Abegor looks like. In classic combatant style, he's fashioned after a handsome knight wielding a lance. Either that or a wicked specter on a flying steed. Watch out for both if you plan on heading into battle anytime soon. Coming in number 4, we've got Kimaris. This one can be a little confusing, even though it's technically similar to Abegor. Kimaris is actually known to be a little bit good as well as a little bit evil. Many scholars have trouble classifying him as a demon or an angel. Sometimes he's just considered to be a godlike helping spirit. This doesn't make him perfect, nor does it excuse the other atrocities he commits. But if you are looking for some help and can't seem to get a traditional angel to swoop down and assist, Kimaris is a good option for sure. A marquis in hell, he commands 20 legions, but supplements this relatively meager force by somehow ruling over all of the spirits in Africa. That's a lot of spirits in case you're wondering. If you see a warrior riding upon a black steed, that could very well be Kimaris, or just any warrior with a black horse, but hey, it's fun to look out for that kind of stuff. Speaking of looking out for stuff, did you know that Kimaris is an expert treasure hunter too? He's known for leading people to hidden and lost treasure, for a price of course. Don't ask about the price. He's also known for teaching people grammar, logic, and rhetoric, which, to be fair, are all very useful things. I use those every day while making these videos. Wait, does that mean I'm being possessed by Kimaris? Oh boy. Lastly, and this one links back up to that soldier-warrior mentality, Kimaris is able to make people into warriors of his own likeness. So hypothetically, he could cobble together an army of Kimaris adjacents and overrun the world no problem. Yikes. But hey, at least they'd find a lot of treasure and teach a lot of valuable lessons. We need more grammar, logic, and rhetoric nerds out there anyways. The internet seems to be draining brains. Coming at number 3, we've got Dantalion. A truly tricky individual, Dantalion should be regarded with the utmost care. Lose your composure around him and you could find all of your secrets being revealed. With 36 legions of demons under his command, he's no pushover either. One would assume that a demon with such a knack for connivery might not be all that strong. Dantalion flies in the face of that assumption. Teaching arts and sciences, he'd be an excellent professor if he wasn't so busy giving people complexes. Apparently he knows the thoughts of all people, and if someone attempts to summon him, he will declare their secret counsel and also do what he can to change their views. So even if you're totally dead set in your ways, Dantalion will find a way to alter that. Stubbornness be damned. Speaking of changing people's minds, he can cause folks to fall in love at the drop of a hat, regardless of any prior affinity or affection. This could end very well or very poorly. It also seems that he can bring folks to literally any place in the world in the blink of an eye. You're not going to be able to pick Dantalion out of a crowd though, as he takes on infinite appearances and can look like literally anyone. In fact, after all this, he sorta reminds me of the demon from It Follows, if you know what I'm saying. Causing lust or love, looking like everyone in the world. What a way to be. Coming in at number 2, we've got Amon. While most of the demons we'll discuss today take on at least a vaguely humanoid appearance, Amon looks like a straight up monster. Take this in. He often appears as a fire-breathing wolf with a snake's tail, a man with a dog's teeth situated inside of a raven, or as a raven-headed man, or some messed up combo of all the above. Absolutely raunchy. Egyptians viewed him as their supreme god, often in a much more human-like form with blue skin. How we got from godlike to demon-like, we may never know. Thankfully, Amon is relatively benign, for a demon at least. He seeks to tell people of all things, both past and present, and mends rifts in friendships. What a sweetheart. It's just too bad he's totally terrifying in most forms. And finally, at number 1, we've got Baphomet. What was once worshipped by the Knights Templar became a pagan symbol of evil? Nobody wants to let anybody worship anything else in peace, eh? How many religions are there in the world, and only one is supposed to be correct? Now that doesn't seem right, now does it? Again, things change so quickly. Whoever's interpreting this figure will greatly alter how it's perceived. For a while it was indeed a pagan symbol, but in the 19th century Baphomet was largely associated with Satan. Still is in some places for sure. It's wild how far something can swing, right? Apparently at some point Baphomet was a fertility symbol, although this has been contested by many. And of course you can find this goat-headed being in tarot decks across the world. I'm not really sure what else there is to say about Baphomet thanks to how divisive a figure it is. Let me know what your take on this whole thing is. Please and thank you. Coming at number 5, we've got Leviathan. Often associated with adjectives like aquatic and enormous, Leviathan is a word we often hear outside of the context of angels. It's a concept at this point. If something is a Leviathan, it's an enormous sea monster, ready to swallow entire ships whole, prepared to annihilate fleets of submarines, waiting for its chance to appear in a monster movie. But here's the thing, Leviathan isn't just some monstrous figure in the ocean, nor is it simply a huge roller coaster in Vaughn. Leviathan is also a demonic angel. Damn, that's a badass title. Let me tell you some more. The sea monster reputation is well earned, as Leviathan often appears or is described as an enormous sea monster or a gigantic whale. Oftentimes, he will destroy ships and other vessels that dare to cross the open sea. Poor sailors, am I right? A lot of folks do end up mixing him up with Behemoth, but we'll let it be for now. There's another roller coaster joke in there somewhere, but I don't have it in me to make it. Leviathan makes appearances throughout ancient texts, from showing up and being described as a Lovecraftian beast with the mere sight of it being overpowering, to a whale that traps another famous character in its belly for 3 days. That first one also details Leviathan's enormous horrible teeth, and a back covered in shiny shield-like scales. That's not all either. Apparently Leviathan can breathe fire, throws smoke from his nostrils, and has eyes that shine so bright they can blind you. My word, that is an incredible biblical beast. And somehow, some way, he's still considered an angel. What a world we live in, right? Then of course there's the tale of Jonah and the whale, and in this case, Leviathan could very well be that whale. We've seen him described as the enormous underwater individual before, so it fits quite well if you think about it. Overall, this is an angel that nobody wants to encounter, even on a good day. Gigantic, predatory, powerful, and full of folks it ate, Leviathan is crazy. It's for the best that it stays deep underwater, away from everyone else. Coming at number 4, we've got Chakidri. Now, instead of listing off 5 specific individual angels, we'll bring in a new group for this one, the Chakidri. Sounds kind of funny, but they're serious business. In some of our earlier angelic videos this year, we discussed the classifications of angels a little bit and found out about all sorts of interesting creatures. Gone was the idea that angels had to be glorious humanoid figures descending from above the clouds to play beautiful tunes upon harps. Angels could be chimeric abominations, too hideous for humans to lay eyes upon. That is just the case with the Chakidri. Oh yeah. To kick it off, let's talk about where these things live. Not in the heavens or above the clouds or anything like that. The Chakidri are so much more hardcore than that. These angels have decided to take up residence in the sun. You know, the enormous ball of fire in outer space that burns bright enough to warm our entire planet from 150 million kilometers away? Yeah, they live there. I'm sure their tans are immaculate. Described as marvelous and wonderful, or in my words, overwhelming and intense, these angels take on very interesting forms. Their feet and tails are like that of a lion, offering up claws and speed unlike most others. Something, everything the light touches is ours, right, Simba? Well, that's only partially true, because the Chakidri also have heads like crocodiles, adding in a new measure of deadliness previously unheard of. They're 900 measures in size, whatever that means, and have 12 angelic wings. And for some reason, they seem to be rainbow colored. So a Technicolor lion-crocodile combo with angel wings pops out of the sun from time to time to bring heat, dew, and rays to the folks on Earth. You know what? Maybe they're not so bad after all. Coming in at number 3, we've got Belphegor. And we're back to individual powerful angels. This one in particular is a well-known fallen angel, which tends to be the case a lot of the time. Belphegor is associated with plenty of sinful behaviors. There's greed, sloth, discord, selfishness, and more. Although, let's be real, sloth and greed are the biggest in his books. He likes to give mortals great ideas for inventions, therefore filling their minds with selfish greed. They'll devote great parts of their lives to these plans, forgetting all sorts of other important things. And often, if these inventions come to fruition, they don't actually improve the state of the world all that much. Yeah, it's mostly stuff that extracts more wealth from the world in the laziest and most destructive way possible. Then the inventions will also draw their users into sloth, as they make things a little too easy. Classic Belphegor. Interestingly enough, this isn't a fallen angel who was on Lucifer's side from the start. However, when Lucifer and his supporters staged their rebellion against the heavens, Belphegor didn't explicitly side with God either. For this slight, he was inevitably sent down to hell anyways. Damn, you just can't win, eh? However, as we've seen, he's adjusted quite well. After his fall, he took to being a prince of hell quickly and started doing his best to preside over sloth. At least he's adaptable. Coming in number 2, we've got Mastema. Known for his judgments and punishments of humans, Mastema is one scary angel. He's an arbiter, and you do well not to forget that. If Mastema gets the chance, he'll put you 6 feet under for eternity. Worse yet, he treats his whole job like a sting operation. Instead of sitting back and waiting for humans to do unholy things, he actively tempts mankind with all sorts of stuff to make them act out of turn. That's tough, huh? Like, you'd think you're living your life and then bam, Mastema tempting you with something lovely but sinful. It just doesn't seem fair, does it? But that is what this angel does, and he does it well. Some say that Mastema and Belial are the same entity, just seen from different angles, Belial being the more demonic and Mastema being more angelic.
However, their actions are indeed the same, or mostly similar, from leading some of God's armies against angels, to controlling legions of demons to control and tempt humans on Earth. It's even said that Mastema was involved with the Watchers, who ended up causing that massive flood way back when. You know the story. So now Mastema is known as the tester of humans. Even after all of that chaos and mayhem, he's still trusted to do things in the name of God. And I'm not sure which is worse, damning people in the name of Satan or damning people in the name of God. I'd much rather an angel try to help people be better rather than entrapping them and seeing to it that they're sent to hell. But hey, I don't claim to understand how angels work. And finally, at number 1, we've got Lucifer. If we were to tally up every list that Lucifer topped, what do you think the final count would be? It's probably a lot higher than I'm estimating, to be honest. But hey, it's not like his spot at the top is undeserved, right? Lucifer worked hard to earn the recognition of people around the world. Hell, there's even a popular TV series featuring this fallen angel. If you can think of a more famous or more fearsome angel than this, please let me know. But until then, we're putting Mr. L right at the tippy top, over and over again. You know the story. Lucifer was an angel without peer. Nobody could stop him. He was the ultimate in heavenly hunks. But then one day he let his pride take over. Instead of being happy that he was the creme de la creme of angels, he thought about usurping God himself. Wrong move, yeah? After organizing something like 1/3 of all the angels in heaven for an uprising, they got beat by the remaining heavenly bodies and sent down to the underworld. So much hope, so much pride, so little execution. Since then, Lucifer / Satan / the devil has been watching over hell, doing what he can to bring order to the chaos. Someday he may rise up and take revenge upon those who smote him. Until then, though, he's responsible for a whole lot of human folly. Goodness gracious. Right on, right on.
Coming at number 5, we've got Armaros. Have you ever watched someone fall in love with the idea of something? Like a high schooler going head over heels for their crush without actually knowing all that much about them, let alone actually talking to them? Or maybe someone falling victim to the never meet your heroes cliche, where they develop some sort of parasocial relationship with someone and then find out what they're really like. I suppose this kind of thing happens even more than ever with the way people present themselves in online spaces, but it's been happening for ages. There's no avoiding the tragicomic classics when it comes to people and the stories they get caught up in. Although one would think that angels might know better. Enter Armaros. Sounds kinda like amorous, which kinda makes sense as I continue to explain what I'm talking about. This is an angel who is a friend of Enoch. One day Enoch came to hang with Armaros and began to describe what humans are like. Their forms, the way they acted and reacted, the things they believed in, the works. And although Armaros had never met a human, he began to fall in love with them, or the idea of them. He, like so many other Watchers, decided to descend to Earth in order to be with the humans. Whether this was out of pure love, or lust, or some combination of the two with many other factors, we may never know. But down he went, which was the beginning of the end. Given his name, which means accursed one, he was lost. Armaros' voice was taken from him as well, leaving him unable to pronounce words as he once did. And there he languished, no longer an angel, forced to live beneath the humans that had entranced and tempted him so. He is the angel of undoing and taught many things to the humans. He introduced them to methods used to counter magic users, and in doing so sped up the advancement of corrupt societies. Destruction was wrought through his lessons, and he made it so humans were even more prideful and powerful than before. All because he had heard about humans and dreamt up a version of them in his angelic head. So let this be a lesson to all of you chronically online folks out there. Project a bunch of stuff onto someone you don't know, and you could end up literally being cast out of your home and down into hell. Keep that in mind. Coming in number 4, we've got Samael. When a name shows up in multiple popular creepy TV shows, you can probably assume there's some spookiness to its owner. In the case of Samael, we can see why almost immediately. Featured in both The Walking Dead and Supernatural, this angel has some star power, and it doesn't stop at star power, he's got some crazy other powers too. He was once an angel up in heaven, of course, with all of the divine providence that comes along with that. However, that wasn't quite enough, and Samael made his way down to Earth and eventually to the underworld itself. There he became known as the Angel of the Unseen. Samael will take a human and put them into a dreamlike state where they remain for extended periods of time. In this dream, humans will experience their personal idea of heaven. Over thousands of years, this angel would do this to many different humans, often under the guise of another. He took on many different names during this process, slyly hiding his identity from those who may recognize him. The reason for these covert operations is largely unknown, but I'm sure you can fire some guesses down in the comments. It wasn't only dreamy heavens that Samael gave to humans though. He also taught them many things things considered taboo at the time. Famed for his teachings of astrology, he gave humans the means with which to decode the stars above them and apply their movements to their lives. A little less popular, teaching the wicked strikes of spirits and demons to children. So if your kids are talking about how angels and demons are terrifying and maybe how they'd like to be just like them, you can blame this angel. He's also a teacher of the strikes of the embryo in the womb, and you can figure that one out on your own. So among Christians, he's got a lot of reasons to be unpopular. Overall, this is a very zealous teacher who is handing out knowledge that folks might not be super happy about in the long run. Plus, getting put into a dream coma might be nice for you, but it's probably not ideal for your immortal soul. Huh? Coming in number 3, we've got Penemu. Knowledge is power, that's for sure, but it can also cause plenty of problems, as we can see while looking at literally any point in history. And who can we blame for all of this? Why, Penemu, of course, the fallen scribe, angel of the written word, curer of stupidity in man and revealer of secret wisdom, a Prometheus in a different body. What an angel. It's too bad all these things didn't end up producing a net good for the world, or it could have been wicked. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. Penemu is another fallen angel who was once a watcher. Wanting to provide humans with all sorts of forbidden knowledge, they did just that. Descending to Earth with ink and paper in hand, Penemu taught people how to read and write, and while doing so purged a good deal of stupidity from the world. Unfortunately, the proliferation of written communication created an environment where stupidity could thrive if left unchecked. Should've saw that one coming. If all sorts of skilled and careful writers get together and discuss, new and useful ideas may be born. If essentially everyone on Earth has access to all of these writings and the ability to give their 10 cents, oh boy. So while the intentions were good, the execution wasn't so great. And the fallen angel Penemu doomed us to scrolling endlessly on Twitter, getting into arguments with distant family over Facebook, and of course, reading comments on YouTube. Coming in number 2, we've got the 5 Satans. Okay, this one seems weird to put in a top 5 list, but hear me out. There are 5 fallen angels who are said to have tempted their compatriots into feeling lust and desire towards humans. For this grave infraction, they will forever be known as the 5 Satans. Yekon, Asbiel, Gadriel, Kazde, and the previously mentioned Penemu were all responsible for this. In doing so, they doomed humanity to a horrible flood and split the heavens in twain. The angels remained on the side of God, fought against their brethren who went down to earth, and nothing has ever been the same. Each of the 5 Satans played their part in corrupting and swaying others away from their predetermined path, and in doing so, they truly earned their fallen angel titles. Condemned and sent down to hell, these 5 are full of hatred and temptation. And what a name for that group too, eh? 5 Satans. It's a pretty wicked way to be referred to. And finally at number 1, we've got Kokabiel. And one more for good measure, right? This fallen angel is known as the Angel of the Stars, which sounds lovely, right? And mostly it is. The thing about Kokabiel is that there is a divide as to whether he could be an angel or a demon. Could be a little bit of column A, could be a little bit of column B. Or maybe one and not the other. I don't know. That's what makes this potential demon so spooky. At any moment it could be revealed whether you can trust him or not, whether he has the order of the cosmos in mind while acting. Terrifying in its vagueness, that's for sure. If we're going to assume that Kokabiel did indeed fall though, we can see that he does indeed have control over some 365,000 spirits in the underworld. That's enough to drown really any other army, and we can probably assume that number's growing by the day. People die and disappear, but their spirits stay in the underworld forever. It's a little darker of a note than I anticipated, but we'll roll with it.
In 5th place, we have cherubs. Cherubim, commonly known as cherubs, are usually depicted as chubby, beautiful, and bare little beings with wings in art, as represented by Renaissance sculptors. These depictions of cherubim are often connected with divinity. These animal-human hybrids have been associated with cupids, the diaper-clad chubby babies who are sometimes shown with a trumpet and arrow to symbolize romantic love. Some may attribute this modern-day image to Cupid-like Greek and Roman deities. On the other hand, the biblical image is frequently attributed to cultural exchanges with ancient Babylonia, Egypt, and Syria, which explains their mixed appearance. According to the Bible, cherubs are responsible for guarding the Garden of Eden, the great biblical terrestrial paradise against humankind when Adam and Eve, the first humans, were driven out of the heavenly garden. And as cute as that sounds, time to talk about the real thing. The prophet Ezekiel's vision of cherubim is depicted in the book of Ezekiel, quoted as follows. all those. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf, had the face of a human being, and on the right side each had the face of a lion, and on the left the face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. They each had 2 wings spreading out upward, and each had 2 other wings covering its body. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright and lightning flashed out of it. Okay, so let's break that vision down. If I'm counting correctly, that's a grand total of 4 faces, 4 wings, 2 regular legs, but with calf hooves instead of feet. I'm trying to picture it. It sounds something like a really bad mutation cooked up in a lab. Genuinely the kind of stuff you don't release to the public. Let me know if there's Men in Black behind me, okay? In 4th place, we have Furfur, kind of reminding me of the term not deer. It may sound funny, but sadly this isn't a laughing matter. Furfur, or furfurs, in Latin means brand. Okay, I promise it's scary and not just cereal. Bear with me, would ya? It seems much more likely that the name is a corruption of Furcifer, the Latin word for scoundrel that also rhymes with Lucifer, which works with him being a count of hell and all. If you're not familiar with the ranking of hell demons, the Lesser Key of Solomon, also known as Lemegeton Clavicula Solomonis, or simply Lemegeton, is an anonymously authored grimoire on demonology. It was compiled in the mid-17th century, mostly from materials that were approximately several centuries older. It is divided into 5 books: Ars Thurgia Goetia, Ars Paulina, Ars Almadel, and Ars Notoria. Focusing mostly on the Ars Goetia, it classifies the 72 demons into classes: kings, dukes, princes, marquises, counts, knights, and lastly, presidents. Furfur is the ruler of 26 legions of demons, which is no small feat. He is a liar unless compelled to enter a magic triangle where he gives true answers to every question, speaking with a rough voice. Furfur causes love between a man and a woman, creates storms, tempests, thunder, lightning, and teaches on secret and divine things. Visually speaking, he appears as a deer with wings, shiny crazy eyes, and sharp teeth. I swear I didn't know this before making the not deer joke a minute ago, but hey, maybe hanging around with a professional mind reader friend is starting to rub off on me. In 3rd place, we have Seraphim. According to the Christian angel hierarchy, Seraphim hold the highest rank. The 2 main historical influences on Seraphim's name come from the Hebrew term Seraph, spelled S-A-R-A-P-H, meaning venomous desert snake, and Seraph, spelled S-E-R-A-P-H, meaning to burn. The Bible describes Seraphim as having 6 wings, 4 of which are used to cover their heads and feet in front of God as a symbol of humility, and the remaining 2 used to fly. Unlike the cherubs, seraphim are not guard angels. Seraphim are described by the prophet Isaiah as angelic beings that continually worship God by surrounding God's throne and singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His glory," in unison when God approaches. Crepes, I think that's the most I've chanted since I stopped frequenting the Catholic Church when I was in like grade 9. Also, by constant, I mean around the clock kind of constant. They never stop. While they are the epitome of helpfulness and forgiveness, their appearance instills fear in those that lay eyes on them. Several historians suggest that the description of the seraphim's wings and flames may have been based on the connection with Egyptian imagery and description of the cobra. I guess I spoke too soon when I was praying I would never have to talk about snakes ever again. And in case I wasn't clear enough, not only do these snakes have wings, they possess fire capabilities. That's way too many levels of terrifying for me. Nope, not gonna happen. In 2nd place, we have Ophanim. They're described in the book of Ezekiel as their entire bodies, including their backs, hands, and wings, being full of eyes all around, as were their 4 wheels. Now, the only way I can picture this not being absolutely terrifying is if they were covered entirely in cute, sticky, googly eyes. Wait, I just pictured it. Scratch that, that's also nightmare fuel. Ophanim, or the wheels, are one of the strangest, most bizarre beings referenced in Ezekiel's vision. They're portrayed as beings made of interlocking gold wheels, with every wheel adorned with numerous sets of eyes on the exterior. These wheels, however, do not change directions as the creatures move by floating in the skies. The 2nd book of Enoch refers to Ophanim as the many-eyed one, and they're sometimes also described as spheres or whirlwinds. Specifically speaking, in Christian angelology, they are one of the classes of angels and are also called thrones. There's an interesting theory that the Ophanim are the wheels attached to God's chariot. These wheels have been associated with Daniel 7:9, where they are mentioned as Galgal, traditionally the wheels of Galgalin, in fiery flame and burning fire of the 4 eye-covered wheels, which are each composed of 2 nested wheels that move next to the winged cherubim beneath the throne of God. 4 wheels move with the cherubs because the spirit of the cherubs is in them. Some folks, like former NASA scientist Jose F. Blumrich believe that Ophanim might have been what we would consider a UFO sighting today. As someone who has talked a decent amount about UFO and alien sightings lately, I'm tempted to believe it at this point, and it would probably help validate a lot of modern historical sightings. And in our first place position, we have the Archangels. They're the second lowest ranking angels, so I can kinda understand why they might be a little more likely to do evil things. The English word archangel is derived from Greek archangelos, the Greek prefix arch meaning chief. In Christianity, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel are the most commonly recognized messenger boys and are celebrated in the Roman Catholic Church with a feast on September 29th for Michael, March 24th for Gabriel, and October 24th for Raphael, which I guess that's kind of sweet. But if you should know by now, we don't exactly do sweet here. Michael was involved in battles and fought closely with his good friend Lucifer, who, I'll call Lucifer right now to make things a little fun. When Lucifer's pride, otherwise known as one of those pesky 7 deadly sins, got the best of him, he decided to stage a full-on rebellion against God. He and a third of the angel population launched a war in heaven over the coveted throne. If I had a banner right now, I'd be cheering him on. Michael, being the good guy he is, wasn't having any of this, and he and his angels rose up against the threat in an angel-on-angel war that ended with Michael laying down the law and casting the rebels out of heaven. Lucifer was hurled from heaven down to earth and was now labeled Satan, which means adversary. Granted, this wasn't the last time Lucifer and Michael fought, with Michael later winning the fight for Moses' soul when Lucifer tried to claim it first. Oh well, can't win them all. Next up, we have Gabriel. He had the fun task of announcing the birth of John the Baptist to Zechariah. But when Zechariah's initial reaction was one of protest, Gabriel's anger escalated rather quickly, stating, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and bring to you this good news. But now, because you did not believe my words, you will become mute, unable to speak until the day these things occur." Look, maybe give someone a minute to process what they're seeing if they're not used to seeing angels before you curse them for, reacting normally. Might be a safer bet. I'm no expert. Even then, my chatterbox self would take that over Raphael's mean streak. The Book of Enoch tells the story of Raphael's battle with the demon Azazel, and Azazel's fate at the hands of the archangel is so much worse than death. Under the orders of God, Raphael bound the demon's hands and feet, found a hole full of rocks, dumped him in it, and buried him alive in the desert, where Azazel just sorta had to wait before being burned at the stake. I can see where people got the inspiration for how to handle witches. Now that I've discussed the main 3, there's a fun little honorable mention I didn't want to leave out. Uriel, a lesser known archangel, was against the idea of fallen angels taking human wives to breed with, so he spoke up and requested divine intervention in the matter. He wasn't taking it easy on anyone either. Even the humans were considered guilty of defiling mankind with these unions, and ignorance was not an acceptable excuse. The existence of these crossbreed abominations and the desire to rid the world of them led to a great flood to cleanse the earth. So, thanks for that. Anyone out there have a spare ark? I hope you'll understand now just how terrifying archangels are. And that brings me to the end of today's list, and I'm kind of torn between wondering if I should, swing by a church and bless myself with holy water on my way home, or vow right now to never visit another Catholic church ever again. What do you think about these terrifying angels? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos.
Number 5, Abezethibou. Coming up first on our list of angels who are anything but angelic is Abezethibou, who would frequently correct the other angels on how his name was pronounced. He's a fairly obscure angel, but an incredibly powerful one of lore. Abezethibou introduces himself as a hostile threat to God, and would end up becoming a demon dueling with Moses, and fancies himself a nemesis to the kingdom of heaven. That's a lofty ambition. Abezethibou lived in heaven alongside the other angels and God whom he served under. When Beelzebub left heaven, he took some buddies with him, and among them was our good friend Abe the Unpronounceable here. Beelzebub would explain to Solomon that during this fall, he took Abezethibou with him, who became a demon of the earth. In his newfound demon form, Abezethibou has one giant red wing, which took on a twisted, mutated form after he fell. As he was falling from the heavens, the other angels were all like, "Oh no, not Abezethibou, we love that guy!" And they tried to grab him to save him. But unfortunately it failed and his wings were torn off, and the little stump wing that remained mutated and twisted into a swollen, monstrous dark red wing, which would probably be terrible, but if you're like an edgy fallen angel, that's probably just perfect for your aesthetic. You probably look so cool. This demon saw himself not just as an enemy of God, but also to Moses, determining to make Moses' life just terrible. In the Testament of Solomon, he claims he was the source of all turmoil that Moses had encountered, confessing that he hardened the Pharaoh's heart against Moses, leading to the Exodus. When Moses led the Israelites across parted waters, the demon followed. When the Red Sea closed on the Pharaoh's army, Abezethibou found himself trapped in a pillar of air, trapping him inside, condemning him to support the pillar until the end of time. If you're looking for more scary stories about demons, angels, aliens, spaceships, monsters, cryptids, ghosts, goblins, and just about everything scary under the sun and above it, stay subscribed to Top 5 Scary and don't miss a minute. Number 4, Samael. As far as bad angels go, Samael is probably beat out only by the angels from Neon Genesis Evangelion for destruction. He's sometimes called the Angel of Death, which is how you know he's kind of bad news, and his name literally translates to Venom of God. You don't get to wave titles like that around without being pretty lethal to back it all up. Kind of like Azrael, Samael is fiercely loyal to God without question. Whatever God wants Samael to do, he'll do it. Good, evil, none of those things mean anything to him. He doesn't make choices or render judgment, he kind of just follows orders. If God told him to eat a can of worms, he'd do it. On the hour of a man's death, it's said that Samael will make himself known to you. He'll appear before you with his blade drawn, soaked in poison, God's venom. This poison is what truly severs a man's soul from this mortal coil, withering and rotting them as you get a taste for it. It's thought that this is where the term to taste death comes from. Samael is also known as the accuser, the seducer, and a midnight joker. He accused the Israelites of idolatry and condemned them all to an early death when they fled with Moses. He seduces humans into acts of evil, and well, I know this is making him sound like he's a really evil guy and he's doing evil acts, and sure, he does rub elbows with equal number of angels and demons, but he's just doing what he's paid to. Samael is God's will, but he's also kind of like God's mercenary, you know? He just does whatever he's asked. And he tries to test humanity and draw out their sinful and unrepentant ways so God can judge them properly. And those who fail will get another visit from Samael. He's not such an evil guy, he just flicks the switch. He's got a little bit of a friendly, brotherly rivalry with the Archangel Michael. Michael's role as an angel is to protect humanity, and Samael's is to vilify it. Michael defended the Israelites when Samael was accusing them, and Michael replaced Isaac with a ram so that Abraham wouldn't sacrifice him. They both want the same thing, you know, they just want to make God happy, they just go about it in slightly different ways. Number 3 is going to be Abaddon, one of many angels who is tasked with doling out divine judgment to humanity. He was sent by God to torture the earth and humanity as punishment for all of their sins. Ugh. Interestingly, in some truly ancient Gnostic texts, Abaddon actually helped out pitching in creating humanity. Oh. Thanks, man. It's said that he gathered handfuls of dirt from the earth for which God could craft Adam with. I did not know he was made out of dirt. Anyway, Abaddon helped start everything, so I guess it only seems fair and fitting that one day he's allowed to end everything. It's said during Judgment Day, Abaddon will gather the souls of the damned and carry them down to the place of God's final judgment. Jeez, with guys like these, what do we even need Satan for? His name, Abaddon, literally translates to the destroyer or the destruction, which is why he might actually be the real angel of death. I'm so sorry, Samael. I know you really wanted it, but Abaddon just worked like a little bit harder for it. There's a little bit of theological confusion when it comes to Abaddon, as depending on the source text, occasionally he's not an angel at all, but a subordinate of Satan, leading a pack of demons instead of anything divine. Even more interestingly than that, though, is that sometimes he's not even a living being. Sometimes he's straight up a place. In some Jewish and Christian texts, he's listed as a hellish abyss, thought to be another realm of the afterlife. For example, Job 31:12 refers to a fire that consumes to Abaddon. Some believe that Abaddon is both an entity and this bottomless pit afterlife realm, that he can manifest himself as both. Or maybe Abaddon was just a really common name back then, you know? Maybe there was a ton of Abaddons running around. Number 2, Azrael. Azrael is a lesser known angel in Christian and Judaistic texts. He's an archangel of heaven, like Gabriel or Samael, but he commands frightening power as he is the angel of destruction. He was commanded by God himself to eradicate and renew life. He's an angel, sure, but he's kind of one of the scarier angels out there. He carries out the will of God no matter what that may entail. If he has to collect the souls of the dead or melt sinners with punishment, Azrael is totally game for it. Unlike some of these other fake angels, Azrael is always always loyal to God above, no matter how heavy the task. You probably know that the cherubic depiction of angels that like greeting cards and cartoons use is a bit of a pop culture cleanup, and that biblically accurate angels are terrifying. I mean, there's a reason the first thing angels are always saying in biblical texts is, "Be not afraid." Maybe you've seen some of those biblically accurate angel memes, those are all gold. Well, Azrael is no different. There's no one definition of Azrael's form, but he doesn't always just look like a handsome human boy with wings. He usually is said to have 4 faces and a body covered in an infinite amount of fractally expanding eyes and tongues. And these eyes and tongues are supposed to represent the souls of man on earth. We all correlate. We all have an eye and a tongue on Azrael's big body somewhere. In Islamic texts, Azrael is said to have 70,000 feet and 4,000 wings and I guess just like 2 hands. Azrael across all texts is omnipotently powerful on a near cosmic scale. He's said to keep track of every single soul on earth and is responsible for all of them. In the Old Testament, King David committed adultery with a woman named Bathsheba, and when he confesses his sins to God, God rules the king can choose what punishment shall befall him. Well, King David was a little shy, so he lets God pick anyway, and God chooses one of his old classics, plague, and Azrael, happy to carry out the will of God, spreads a plague across Jerusalem, ending the lives of some 70,000 men. Well, if that's the case, at least he'll be losing some of those ever-expanding eyes and mouths, right? Probably fill up some space on the canvas. That's not so bad. And finally, number 1, Michael. In a modern context, I think there's something funny about putting the ultimate, scariest, most powerful angel out there is a being named Michael. Just knowing that God's most fearsome, loyal warrior could potentially go by Mikey kind of takes something away from him. Now, while most of the angels on this list kind of have like a dubious, morally gray reputation and sometimes get themselves involved on some very nasty business on God's behalf, Michael is the hero archangel. Michael is commonly depicted as a radiant, shining soldier wearing gold armor. He's beautiful, handsome, brave, and he carries with him a powerful sword and shield for which he can carry out God's will and protect man with. When you close your eyes and you kind of think of like a divine warrior, you're picturing Michael without you even knowing it. Michael is a legendary warrior in heaven's army, and he goes toe to toe with Satan in combat. For the control of Moses' soul, most famously. Satan declared that Moses' soul was his for the taking, and since Moses had taken life before the Exodus, Satan thought he had a claim on this, but Moses was a servant of the Lord, so this wasn't going to work out. Michael flew down from up above to lay a celestial beatdown on the Prince of Darkness. Michael is almost like an angelic superhero, a light in the darkness, someone who swoops in to defend humanity from the legions of the world and the corruption of the damned. He's kind of like a total Boy Scout. He's also not just any old archangel, he's the archangel. The Greek etymology for archangel means chief angel, implying that Mikey here isn't just a really good angel, but like the captain of the angels, implying that there are no true peers on his level of devotion. During Judgment Day, when it's said a war of angels and demons will be carried out, Michael will be the commander leading the armies of heaven on the ground against the forces of evil. In the old scriptures, Michael only says one thing, and it's kind of like an action movie one-liner while he's fighting Satan. With sword drawn, Michael boasts, "The Lord rebuke you." Simple, to the point, very cool.
Coming in at number 5, we have Baracule. This fallen angel commanded great power but ultimately had no respect for it. Baracule is the 9th Watcher and one of the leaders of the 200 fallen angels according to the Book of Enoch. His name means lightning of gods, which makes sense considering it was said he taught mankind astrology. His fall from grace was the first indicator that the Watchers were not complete in their wisdom. The legend goes that the Watchers were dispatched to Earth by God in order to oversee the human race. Consumed with lust for the beautiful daughters of men, these angels decided to abandon God's will and take them as their wives. As a result, the women gave birth to a terrifying race of unimaginable creatures, bloodthirsty giants known as Nephilim. Baracule is known for his immense strength, possessing God's holy lightning. His powers were an object of fascination for both men and angels alike, however his personality is said to be rigid and serious. He's not one for jokes as he takes them in the literal sense, and apparently has a masochistic side to him. Coming in at number 4 we have Harut and Marut. These angels are a bit of a package deal and they come from Islamic mythology. Harut and Marut unintentionally became fallen angels in an interesting bet gone wrong with God. After observing rampant sinning on earth, a group of angels began ridiculing the weakness of man. God then bet that these angels would do no better and would also give in to temptation on earth. Harut and Marut were chosen for this experiment, and as soon as they descended they were seduced by beautiful women. However, a man bore witness to their sin, so the pair of angels killed him. Lovely. God gave the angels in heaven a big fat "I told you so," and Harut and Marut were condemned to either hell or earth to pay for the sin they committed. Honestly, earth's probably worse than hell, to be honest. They chose to be punished on earth and were hanged by their feet in a well in Babylonia until the day of judgment. Coming in at number 3, we have Arakiel. He is the fallen angel from the book of Enoch. He is the second mentioned watcher and one of the leaders of the 200 fallen angels. Also referred to as Arat Stikafer, meaning world of distortion, Arakiel is said to possess powerful geokinetic magic with the ability to literally move mountains. The name Arakiel actually means Earth of God, so as an angel with a connection to Earth, he taught mankind to harvest the rich minerals below the ground. Safe to say, this fallen angel is a powerful one. According to legends, Arakiel was an instrumental player in the uprising against heaven. Other fallen angels approached him seeking help on their quest to battle heaven. Arakiel, using his knowledge of the earth, taught mankind the signs of earth, likely meaning the art of geomancy. God learned of his treachery, sending his strongest angels to apprehend him. In an attempt to evade these agents of God, Arakiel entered his ascension form, and from that great battle grew various mountains across the planet. Whether or not he was captured is unknown, but the battle shook the very foundations of the earth. Coming in at number 2, we have Lilith. So she's technically not a fallen angel, but Lilith did fall out of grace with God and become a prolific and powerful demon. So for that reason, she's earned a place on this list. In Jewish folklore, Lilith is considered the mother of demons, but before she held that title, she was Adam's first wife. A bit of an upgrade, don't you think? Legend goes Lilith and Adam were created by God to live in the Garden of Eden. Lilith was ahead of her time and unwilling to be subservient to her husband, Adam. This power struggle didn't bode well for the couple. In a fit of rage, Lilith muttered the Lord's name and flew into the air, abandoning Adam. God then sent his angels to retrieve Lilith and bring her back to her husband by any means necessary. By the time they found her at the Red Sea, her rebellion grew with more fury and she refused to return. Lilith then transformed into a demon, cursed for eternity to never be able to bear children without them dying. It's not exactly the creation story we all know, but certainly an interesting one. Since God took away her ability to have children, it's said that Lilith is now a night demon who preys on newborn babies. She also seduces men and is often thought of as a succubus. Lilith has become somewhat of an icon to some. She even has her own religious following called the Church of Talto. I'll join. Finally, coming in at number 1, we have Abezethibou. Abezethibou is one of the most wicked and evil angel-turned-demons to fall from heaven. In the Testament of Solomon, he's said to be the son of the big bad Beelzebub, who he followed out of the gates of heaven and into the depths of hell. Abezethibou introduces himself as a hostile threat to God and anyone who chooses to serve under him. During his descent from heaven, one of his great wings was ripped off and the other became a monstrous dark red wing. Full of anger and vengeance, Abezethibou became the ruler of Tartarus, a region of the underworld in Greek mythology created to torture wicked souls and to house banished titans. Contrary to Judeo-Christianity, Abezethibou sheds light on the story of Exodus in the Testament of Solomon, taking credit for the turmoil that Moses endures. The one-winged demon fled to Egypt to harden the Pharaoh's heart to Moses. In turn, the Pharaoh refused to free the Hebrews. Abezethibou then followed Moses and the Israelites. With the army, he convinced the Pharaoh to send, but they were ultimately drowned in the Red Sea, leaving this demon trapped in a pillar of air. As a skilled sorcerer, he's considered a master of performing miracles and wonders and has the ability to share these powers with anyone. Said that Abezethibou is most easily summoned in the month of July. Sick, but I would not recommend giving that a try, but I probs might, so I'll let you know how it goes. No time like the present, am I right?
Coming in number 5, we've got trumpeting angels. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good trumpet solo. It's a beautiful instrument with so much room for expression and range. However, these angels aren't likely looking to play some blues scales, nor are they going to run through a sorrowful ballad. They're playing these trumpets as a way to kick off the horrifying festivities of the end of the world. The 7 trumpets shall be played by 7 angels, each of which marks the beginning of something terrible. This all happens after humanity has already been reduced to tatters and folks are living in caves, so hot start. But it does get hotter, because the trumpets are supposed to raise hell. Let's run through all 7 and see how we feel. The first trumpet rings out loud and clear, summoning a storm of hellfire. Hail, fire, and boiling blood will rain from the skies upon those still present on earth. This is so spicy hot that all the grass and trees still standing will be burned down to nothing. Anyone outside of their cave dwelling will be cooked too. Now, you might be thinking that the sea is a good, safe place during all of this, but not so, as the second trumpet begins the process of breaking down a burning mountain and setting all the pieces into water, reducing the wildlife to blood and destroying any human-made vessels. Trumpet number 3 fells a star named Wormwood, sending it careening down to Earth. When it touches down, it poisons a portion of all the waters on Earth, whether they be rivers, lakes, oceans, or streams. There are stark few comforts left at this point, but things can get worse. All of the light from the sun and stars disappears at the sound of the 4th trumpet, which can't be very well received by the folks still surviving. After darkness reigns, an eagle will swoop down and warn folks of the next trumpets and their consequences. Number 5 brings about another fallen star, this one carrying a plague of locusts that are meant to torment any non-believers. Now here's where things get really dire. Trumpet 6 unleashes 4 very special, very violent angels. This fearsome foursome will send 200 million horsemen down to Earth to cut through a third of humanity using fire, smoke, and sulfur. Holy smoke, they're not messing around. Worse yet, their horses barely resemble anything equine. They're chimeric abominations with heads of lions, snake-like tails, and horrible breath. Lastly, number 7 kicks off a brand new set of tortures for those who remain on Earth, led by another set of awful angels. Let's talk about that in the next entry. Coming in number 4, we have the 7 bowls. The trumpets were just a warning, a sign of things to come. And while the angels who played these deadly instruments are bad, the angels in charge of these heavenly bowls are so much worse. Plus, they look like they're bringing down holy offerings, which gives folks false hope before realizing what's actually going on. So 7 angels take up 7 bowls or vials or whatever vessel you can imagine and bring the contents down to Earth. They then begin pouring whatever's inside down upon the ground, and then things go really sour. Inside these bowls resides pain and torture, plague and disease. Anyone who made it through the trumpeting will then be annihilated without remorse. Folks develop oozing sores, rivers are filled with blood, people literally combust on the spot. It's all very wild. And the fun doesn't stop there either. As plagues spread through the world and those who have sinned suffer lifetimes of pain, even more madness is poured by these bowl-bringing angels. After the Euphrates River dries up, battles between kings of the world will begin and more lives will be lost. And to top everything off, the bowls bring about the most powerful and destructive earthquake that mankind will ever see. No disaster to date will compare to the chaos whipped up by this massive quake, leveling entire cities in seconds, opening up enormous chasms in the earth, and generally making it really hard to have a good time. Damn. So what at first appears to be a reward for surviving the trumpeteers actually becomes an ever greater punishment. These angels literally split the world apart with a quake after implementing all sorts of legendary suffering. Jeez Louise, I thought these guys were supposed to protect and watch over humanity, not absolutely annihilate everyone. Coming in number 3, we've got the false prophet. Whether this is actually an angel or not is a point of contention, but I believe that this presence is employed by the heavens regardless, so we'll allow it. This beastly brute will arrive just in time to sway the hearts of weaker humans, and then condemn them for falling to his trickery. During the divine trumpet solo, a horrifying beast will emerge from the sea, killing many. However, the beast will be injured after this. Once that is complete, the false prophet will rise. This entity will force anyone around to worship the first beast, causing them to be branded with the mark of the beast, or 666. Any who comply will be damned, of course, and will also suffer immensely once the plagues from the bowls rain down. But really, did any mortal have a choice in the matter? The beast from the sea is powerful enough to frighten anyone into submission, so what else are they supposed to do? During a rain of hellfire like that, there's not too much in terms of rational thinking or hope. I suppose it's a test to see if those who are truly devoted to God are ready to simply die with the knowledge that they'll be saved. But still, that is a hardcore trust test. Coming in number 2, we've got the of Babylon. Another questionably angelic figure, but one who appears nonetheless. As chaos reigns around the world, the whore of Babylon will descend upon humanity riding a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. She will be drunk on the blood of martyrs and saints and looking for a good time. And by good time, I do mean blood. This is interesting, as this particular figure seems to be representative of a political movement at the time. Scholars often accept her as a symbol for Rome, with 7 heads representing the 7 hills of Rome and the 10 horns standing in for the 10 emperors who seem to be pushing for a less Christian world. So even if this promiscuous beast rider wasn't an angel from heaven herself, she represented something that God would have abhorred. And in being a symbol to rally against and hate, this Babylonian beauty probably steered folks back in the direction those at the church appreciated. Interesting, right? And finally, at number 1, we've got Abaddon, God's chosen angel of death, the supposed location of the lake of fire, and a legendary name overall. This figure is said to have released the locusts mentioned earlier. A swarm of locusts probably isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. They can block out the sun and eat all your crops, but that is a minor setback. However, Abaddon's locusts, that's a whole other story. These hellish insects are ready to go to war. They're said to appear as war horses with human heads and thorny crowns. With long flowing hair and teeth as sharp and strong as a lion's, they're instructed to torture anyone without the sign of God on their forehead for 5 long months. It seems a little excessive, but here we are. This is an angel who's all about cleansing the world of impure people through death, and the fact that he also commands these hordes of nightmare bugs only serves to intensify his wicked reputation. If there's an angel better known for cruelty and unforgivingness, let me know. But for now, we'll let Abaddon top the list. I hear there's a hotel somewhere that shares his name. I wonder what it's like. So there you have it. I've scoured the tomes, scrubbed through the texts, and found some particularly petrifying angels mentioned in the holiest of holy books. I'm sure there are more, but hey, we've only got so much time before they come for us, right?